Okay. Roger Mitchell has left.
Turn down my phone.
So how do we want to do this? Shall we just go down the list to talk about things?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good, Alexa.
Yeah. Maybe. John and Ray can give a quick update about what they've been up to. I know there are a trillion details, but if you can just do a 5-minute update, that'd be great.
Yeah, Ray, you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, mine's a lot shorter than John's. John's been really digging into a lot of stuff, Alexa. But basically, the big things are that we've got the, as you saw from the pictures today, we have the lagoon situation taken care of. Ricky says it's been a couple years since it was burned out, but we got the number 2 cleaned out, burned up, and ready to switch lagoons from 1 to 2. And then the second item was the landfill, which they're tearing up Dangling Rope Marina, which they estimate to be around 3,000 yards of trash. And we've been we've already stretched our hours to summer hours down there at the landfill, so we've been busy helping out with that and getting that all pushed aside, and the county's been helping as well. But those are 2 of the big projects right now, but they'll both be finished by the end of the week or next week. So as far as the internals of TUID, I've kind of stepped back and have been just assisting John in informational stuff, but he's been the one getting his hands dirty. So I'll let him step in and give you an update on that stuff.
So how does that work financially with all the time that you guys spent on that?
On the landfill?
On the landfill.
Well,
the revenue goes to the county is what I understood from an earlier email.
Yeah. So what's happening is we're only reimbursed for from 9:30 till 12 o'clock Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So I've had to use our staff to go down there and do the jobs. They're not spending all day down there. They go down there just a couple hours a day to run the equipment, just to keep the stuff out of the way. And in exchange for that, they're staying with us at the lodge. So our the labor that we're using outside of TUID hours is being covered by the amount of rooms they have and the amount of time they're here. And so we're just kicking in the labor for that privilege of housing them. And then TUID makes the money when on the hours that they're actually open. So it's not coming out. There's no expenses coming out of TUID or anything like that. We're not overworking.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the arrangement?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay. If you don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. Okay, sorry, I interrupted with my question.
That's okay, John. I pass it to you. John, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry guys. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
sir.
Good deal. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I lost connection when it reconnected and muted me, so apologies. Yeah, if I lose it again, I'll get back on. Ray, as you know, the wind's blowing here in Tickaboo, so that means iffy internet. Yeah, just to condense the catch up for you guys. Catch up is the name of the game. Just going back through items, that need to be caught up on, everything from billing and the software processes that go with that. And billing's getting there. We're back on track, whereas the billing and the due date are within the same month now. And everybody's been, customer base has been really understanding with that too. We've had a few questions and talked to people, and we got it worked out there. So that's good to see. And part of it's learning the billing software too. It's got its, quirks like a lot of software does. And just trying to, understand it top to bottom, looking at people's payments. I'll give an example. There was a couple of folks that are showing late, and one report you run, they don't show up, but if you run another specific report, they do show up as having paid. So it's understanding, the quirks of the software and digging into it there. So that's part of that on the admin and software end. And again, getting caught up with anything from the state, any sort of inquiries or audits or anything they need. You saw you guys, like I mentioned, the water test, which is a false alarm. All that was done and taken care of. The state just missed it. It happens. That's part of the business we're in with that too. The other part is getting familiar with everything. As far as the operations, from the generator house to the well houses and how all that works. We want to understand that top to bottom. And then part of that too, the generators, getting that preventative maintenance done on them, as you guys saw it did you today via email, getting Cat out here to do the load test and help us diagnose the communications issues. It's a concern that I can't see all of them. Two of them have been offline since February the 24th. So, it's important to be able to see them physically and see them online too, and see what's going on with them, and then how they communicate with each other when they swap the power loads too. So finally got some movement. As I said, I started back in March working on Cat to come out. They did once, and now the stage 2 of getting the service to come out. And part of that too is just, apparently these guys have good familiarity with the generator house, how it was built. And as I said, it's one thing to know how generators work. The next step is knowing how these specifically are set up to work. It's not that complicated, but it's just things like the oiling systems and why they're on a 10-hour power cycle versus a 12-hour, things like that. So apparently some of these guys with Cat had a hand in setting that up. So that education, from those guys in person would be invaluable there. The other part is just being familiar with probably my biggest curve is items like the rates, the hookups, who's paid what, where things are at as far as the meters and the lots. So that's actually out making rounds and, talking to some of the customers and working with that too. So yeah, everything just generally right now, catching up everything from the admin end, to the operational end too. It's a process. As I mentioned, you guys, it's not that it's difficult. In today's business world, the difficulty is, as I lamented, 5-10 follow-ups, but it's the world we live in today, business wise. The rest of it's just time consuming. But once we do get those routine items caught up, and they'll, obviously be less time intensive.
Hey, John, you mentioned you sent us an email about some software that you thought that might help with that. Can you describe that briefly for us, and then we can see if anyone has any comments or suggestions about that?
Yeah, was that you're not referring to the Cat software? You mean the Maintenance software?
The Maintenance software, yes.
Yeah, it allows you to go more digital and take more things off paper, and then do your inspections digitally as well. Basically you put everything where you can see it. It's transparent. And for example, like I sent you guys, you take the generator inspection list off the wall in the generator house, and it's electronic. And then your technician is up there with that, putting in notes, and all that's transparent. And it produces reports where you can see your trends. You can associate your labor with that, your time. You can see what preventive maintenance you're doing versus reactive if you have issues with items. It's a very typical modern maintenance software that allows you to track maintenance. It actually allows you to put in inventory of your parts. Example there would be filters and how many you use in a year, based on your maintenance cycle. And that way, everything, that you have. Even things we have, a good bit of electrical meters and water meters, items like that from an inventory standpoint. And then you also keep up with your cyclical compliance items like state inspections or anything of that nature too. It's just a modern software that moves, those processes and inventories off of paper and makes them digital. And then you have better access to reports and trends, based on what you're doing.
So my understanding of it is that basically it's a list of all your assets, all the stuff you have, all the things you need to operate, and then for each item you can just schedule everything that needs to be done to it, like state inspections, maintenance that you would do on a periodic basis. And so if you were to decide that there are pastures that are even greener, that the next person could just pick up the iPad and just at least know what to do, if not
exactly,
how
Alexa.
to do it.
And even for an example that you're talking about is, let's say you're doing an inspection on the generators. That document that tells you how to do that inspection is in there. Now, if you do them every day, you expect to know that. But, in today's world of liability and all that, it's nice to have those procedures in there. And as you say, you have transparency and portability that somebody else knows how to do those procedures and SOPs as well. Like I told you guys, it takes things out of your head and puts them, into an accessible form for everybody.
Ray wanted to say something.
Yeah, thanks, Alexa. So Tim Kelly, he's on the call, and he actually brought Maintenance X to North Lake Powell last spring. It's been a year now. And if you want to hear a small little piece of, and he uses it quite often, and he could probably tell you what it's done for us as far as becoming more streamlined and more of it's really taken a big load off of management, and it's made it easier for us to operate. And there's still a lot of functions that we're not taking advantage of. We're just learning everything as we go. But Tim, if you want to give a little synopsis of the value that you found in it since you introduced it.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Alexa, you good with this?
Am I good with you speaking?
Jumping in and talking about it? Yep. I don't want to.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. You're part of the clan.
Very good. Yeah. So Maintain X we kind of settled on that because one of the primary reasons was all the things that John talked about, but also in our communication challenged environment out here, it was one of the few pieces of software that you can run on your phone or tablet and it'll operate offline. So if you don't have a Wi-Fi signal or cell service or anything, you can still do your updates. And then the moment you reconnect, it'll refresh all the data. And that's a big challenge. It doesn't seem like much, but it's a big challenge with a lot of software that, says that it can do the things that it can. So that was a big selling point. The other thing John kind of touched on was everything equipment-wise. Assets for TUID can be serialized and added into the system as assets. Track the maintenance histories, parts, like you said. The checklists and meter readings, you can create all that yourself, or you can send the company a form or information sheet, and they can do it for you. But it's pretty easy. You can set up your own checklist. You can set up your own kind of surveys. You can do just about anything you want to do, or you can take a cookie cutter form that, say, a manufacturer like CAT requires to track their maintenance, send it in, they'll digitize it and make it a series of checklists or fill in the blanks or whatever it is to stay compliant. And then, like John talked about too, if you want to really get into it, building the work orders like we're doing here at North Lake Powell, you can add on, their time, materials. You can start and stop like a stopwatch type thing for each work order. You can get really heavily detailed, even doing purchase orders and things like that. So there's room to grow. You can pick and choose what you want to turn on, so it doesn't clutter up the interface for maybe people getting started. Whoever's in control of that, though, like John, if somebody in the field sees something, they can put a request in. It'll go to him, and then he'll be like, okay, and he'll actually create the work order, add some information, and just follow up on whatever channels he needs to make it all happen. So it's real easy to use at a base level for anybody in the field. And you can make it as detailed and kind of complex as you want to on the management side of things. So it's very scalable, but yet still user friendly at the same time.
Mike or Amy, do you have any? Well, maybe I should say what I think first. I think that it's a great idea. I'm usually not hiring experts to do work for me and not accept their recommendations, especially not if they're so clearly beneficial as this one seemed to be. But Mike, Amy, do you have any comments to make on that?
Pretty familiar with it, and I do use it on a daily basis to communicate with our maintenance staff at NLP. I think it would be a good addition and a good tool for John to use with his team.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. We've been moving from paper substation inspection forms to the same kind of platform for our inspection, which makes it so much easier to keep track of the records.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Do we need like a formal board decision to do that? Mike, what do you think?
I wouldn't think so.
No,
But
so
we could put it on the next meeting and just approve it then if you want.
yeah, maybe we should just not make it like an actual resolution or something, but just quickly touch on that in the formal board meeting.
Sure.
And I think too, Tim brought up the purchase orders too. It'll track all that, so you don't have to go through a different process. So when we do look back at charges to see why we bought this or what we bought that for, it's pretty much detailed.
Yeah.
Maintenance.
Yeah, that's critical going forward, I think.
Okay. John, do you have anything else to
Yeah, and of course, you guys know, just to clarify, the price is good. As far as software goes, it's a $1,500 a year subscription. So that's as far as software goes, it's relatively inexpensive as compared to some others. So that price wise and price point for what you're getting out of it, that's where we want to be as far as what we're going to send up front on that too, without going overboard on it. So that's another good selling point, the value of it for what you're paying yearly for what it can do, and that's for that 1,500. And of course, I'm rounding up. I think it's 1,486. That's for 3 users, and I would certainly check and see if we can get you guys, a read-only access to that too. But that's for 3 active users. Also on that for the premium package, as they call it.
Yeah. Now I think about it, maybe we shouldn't wait. I mean, the formal board meeting is a whole month away, which is a whole month in which you're not using this system. So maybe I'm changing my mind. Maybe we should just all think this is an operational decision that you guys are are in a position to make based on your contract. Unless Mike or Amy think different about that. It's not a board level decision, it's an operational decision.
Yeah, I really don't think it's a big thing. It's just a tool. It's really not going to be that big of an expense in the grand scheme of things. And John is going to get, I believe, refurbished tablets, correct, from Walmart that are only like $100. So.
Yeah, that'd be correct, Amy. And as I mentioned, you guys, software it all looks great on paper. It's only as good as you use it. And my record is I use it. So that's one thing I would guarantee you guys, that it'll be put to use.
Yeah.
You can waste your money if you don't use it, till its fullest extent. So I'm well versed in software and a believer in it, and maximizing it too. So it was something that would be used.
And you guys already have experience with it, so
yes,
I have faith.
it certainly helps.
I would say go do it.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be great. Oh, that'll certainly, move us in the right direction on getting things organized and, know what we have and, record what we're doing.
Yeah. Huh. Now we get to start our actual agenda that we published. The sale of our real estate. I don't know, Amy or Mike, if you want to say anything right off the bat.
I think it would be a good idea to put some of these lots strategically on the market to sell. I really don't see the point on sitting on them. We could be using the funds to get this generator thing resolved, and I don't see the purpose of sitting on that many lots, and especially like the Falls trailer, it's just falling apart. I mean, I really think it should just be demolished. But if we could find somebody who wanted to buy it, that would be great to get that off of our hands. And also, Chip's trailer just sitting there, it's gonna, we're gonna have to do upkeep on it, and it's in good condition right now. I think we should maybe move it to one of our lots that are vacant and try to sell the whole thing together.
Mike, you have expressed some opinions about what to do with Chip's trailer and lots.
Sure.
Can you remind us what that was?
Yeah, so, I think with the infancy of our contract, our management contract, and, just looking into the future, I think it would be good for us to keep some sort of presence in case things change. North Lake Powell's a commercial entity, and things might change. They might decide they don't want to run the utility anymore. Then we're up against finding somebody to live there, and we have nowhere to put them. So I think it's really important that we keep some presence there, be it the newer trailer on the lots that it's on. And we've got 3 lots up in the estates. 2 are next to the solar field for the Beehive broadband. And I talked to the real estate agent briefly about those, and she said they'll be undervalued due to that fact that they're in between a huge shop and a solar field. So I don't know if we want to sell them right now. I guess we really need to sit down and just pencil it all out. But I do see value in selling. We've got a vacant lot in town that we could liquidate. I agree with Amy on the Fall residence. I think it's pretty bad shape. I think we could generate some revenue and keep some stuff that we may need in the future. I just feel it's a little premature to go ahead and move everything out and not have any property in town.
Yeah, I might be a little more optimistic about the longevity of North Lake Powell, especially I've been working with them since 2012, and they haven't gone anywhere since 2012, and
Sure.
I have faith, but
Well, I have
I-
faith,
I-
in myself, but
right,
I'm also a realist too.
right.
Been down there one
Things do happen. So would it be a good idea to put the lots on the market, like that dilapidated trailer and the empty lots? And we probably have to think about what a good price was.
Sure.
I was reading in some board resolutions that everybody decided that the 2 lots under Chip's trailer was worth $40,000, which strikes me as very, very optimistic. But I think it might make sense to put the one with the dilapidated trailer and the empty trailers just on the market, and not at fire sale prices, at like market prices, and just see what happens. We're not in a hurry to sell them, so I don't want to undervalue them to get rid of them, but I do want to move towards moving that into a more liquid asset. And then Chip's trailer, we have to find a new word for that.
Please.
we can hold off on that for a few months, for 6 months or so, if you feel strongly about it, and then just see how things go in North Lake Powell. And my hope is that the relationship will have solidified to the point by that time that we feel comfortable to move forward with putting that on the market too, either as a lot with trailers, depending on what Tom Hill wants to do. If he wants to cooperate in selling it, then we can sell it, put it on the market at that time, if we feel more comfortable then. If he doesn't want to cooperate with the sale, it means releasing the deed restriction, then we can just give him the lots back and move the trailer to somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've got 3 lots in the estates. So, there's a possibility to market one or 2 or all of those. And then the main reason for those lots in the estate, especially by the beehive, was explained to me that was an area for a shop, because there's not any area up at the generator building really to have any more TUID type infrastructure for covered storage for the equipment, that kind of thing. So that's what those were intended for from the beginning. As for the fall residence, I'm totally on board with selling that. I just, nothing, I'm not unfaithful in the idea of this contract working out. I just want to be prepared, and I don't feel like as a public trustee that it would serve the district for us to sell everything, and then be potentially looking for something later on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So yeah, holding off a little bit might be
Upkeep
good.
on trailers. Upkeep on those trailers is not that big a deal.
Yeah. Well, it's $50,000 that's just sitting there, and that kind of bothers me. But
Sure.
it's
Yeah, exactly.
John, do you have any thoughts about if more land would be needed for future expansion of the facilities up at the north end?
Very limited thoughts. The one idea that comes to mind right now, we discussed this the other day, and probably a good time to bring it up. For example, the big cat backhoe that belongs to TUID. One of my ideas was to, at least for now, get that under cover, unless you guys object as a board in some of the boat storage in Tickaboo. What happens when that equipment sits out is that the UV gets to it. So you got equipment that has hydraulic lines and other things that are vulnerable, and they get aged prematurely. So
I know that's why I got rid of cars, not because the
Yeah.
car doesn't work, but because all the plasticky things comes off in my hands.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's one thing we discussed doing, because we do have the space there to do that. And it's just for the sake of keeping that, machinery in better shape, out of UV rays. So that's just more of an interim thought. Yeah. Longer term for that, that may depend on, maybe energy sources, maybe, if there were something we explored in the future for an alternate energy source, I could see that, playing in at that point. But as far as, if just another physical facility for a shop, I don't see the need for that now if we have the other storage to put equipment in. But again, that would, as time goes on, that may change, but that's just, sort of a snapshot opinion that I have now.
Yeah. It's not that we're about to run out of land in the Tickaboo section.
I don't know that we would be allowed to build another shop down in that cul-de-sac. That cul-de-sac is starting to look so bad because of that person who built that big storage unit, and that's not supposed to be there. And I don't know what that person is doing who put up the steel fence around the other corner lot there. And then you've got another house. It looks like a chicken coop going up. I think, people are just building back there willy-nilly, and I don't think that's allowed. We should really, before we talk about building a shop back there, make sure that we're allowed to.
Yeah. No, I think the residential lot should be residential lots, and the TUID needs more land for its operation, because Tickaboo is expanding. I'm sure it can be somewhere. It can be arranged for somewhere else, and if it needs room for solar panels and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can switch hats for a minute, Sitla has said more than once to Chip and to other board members that if there is a viable financial plan for solar power in Tickaboo, we can sort out where that needs to go, where it fits in with the development plans with the developer.
So yeah, I guess that would probably, the same thing with the shop would then apply to the, Beehive's infrastructure there too, because they really devalued those lots by putting all those solar panels up right there on the corner.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened.
Came from the old days, and nobody really cared.
Yeah.
Know what they did.
Okay, well, so who is going to find out where to list the lots and for how much? Oh, another question, Ray. This Gene fellow who says that he wants to buy a lot. Is he for real?
Yeah, Gene is very for real. He's interested in the one directly across from his properties now, which happens to be the Falls Estate house. And then another one, I think down across from that. I'm not quite sure exactly where, but he's interested in buying two. And he's also looking at stuff up in the estates. I know he reached out to our real estate office, but we've got things on hold right now while we're doing some other stuff. So he's just he's looking to invest into the area, and he wants to pick up those two lots right now, but he's certainly agreeable to more if there was some available.
Has he given any, have made like a serious offer with a number attached, or?
Yeah, he wouldn't do that with me. I'm not. I'd be happy to talk to him to see what he's interested in. He's not nickel and dimer. I think he's just looking at market price.
Because that, I mean, whoever we're going to list this with, we probably should exclude whatever we sell to Gene from the commission agreement.
And do we really need to list it? Or can we just sell it privately?
Well, we can sell it privately, but if you list it, then other people, right now, if you go to real estate search engines and you say, I want to live in Tickaboo, then nothing comes up.
Sure. Yeah, I was just thinking in the past, we've just put for sale signs on stuff and done pretty good, so.
Yeah.
Has it always been closed bids, Mike, or is it?
Sorry, Ray. When more than one person, are interested, then they go to a closed bid process.
I mean, I'd be happy to reach out to find out values. Leanne Mitchell's a really good source for that. I could contact the person at Arches and find out from them as well, and find out. I can, if you want me to, ask Gene what his interest is. I don't know, really how much you want to do or whatever. I feel like liquidating a lot of those lots would help you. Real estate's really not rainy day type money, but I do know, I know that Mr. Shortreed was charging TUID a rental fee for office space, and I think with NLP, what we're trying to do is like utilize the storage area down near our fleet shop. It's not just the backhoe that John was talking about, but you also have the truck. There's a Kubota tractor and that little golf cart to keep out of the sun. Those have just been sitting up in the sun and going bad, and we've got them all running and fixed now. It'd be a shame to have them go bad again, but keeping them in the shade and in the office that we're creating down on the street, we're not charging for that. So I think, except for like what Mike was saying, that there might be a day where the future has a need for staff. I just don't see where one person's going to ever be able to come in here. Like just today, John, what do we have? Five of our staff are doing TUID work, and we're getting stuff done. And it's because we're dedicating, staff to getting this stuff done. I don't see one person ever being able to come back in here and doing that. You're probably going to have more, especially if there's growth. I mean, it's taken a while to keep up with just what we're trying to learn. Once we get everything streamlined, it'll be very efficient, but I think it's more than a one-man job. And I think North Lake Powell is going to be the cutting edge of helping TUID achieve that. And with that said, I think that if you tried to sell that stuff, I'd be delighted to reach out and find out what it is you need to know so that you can make that decision on values and how to do it and how much to do it for.
Yeah. If you can just kind of poke around in that, we're not in a hurry. And maybe if all it takes is hammering in a for sale sign, well, that'd be good too.
And would that be something the state auditor would know, do you think?
What prices?
No, the procedure.
I don't know if there are any rules about that, but it might be worth checking. God only knows what they have rules about.
Yep, sure.
It was my understanding that Gene wanted to purchase something very soon before June for some reason or another, Ray. Is that what you understood? And I think it would be so good to get that Falls residence off of her hands. We could probably do that pretty quickly, don't you think? Because he's more interested in having that lot. Am I right?
Yeah, I think he's wanting to have some Airbnb type properties, and I think that he finds that it'll be easier to manage them from not if they're not scattered, if they're all in a little area. I think he's a hot buyer. You know how it is.
Mhm,
You got a hot buyer, man. You sell it to him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
no,
be really interested to see what his plans are, because I heard that he was going to put up a big shop for motorhomes for his family. So I'm just wondering, probably ought to really be, due diligence and see exactly what he's planning on doing there. And
Well, I don't think those are in the covenants, or not the covenants, but in the. I don't think
Is that zoning, guys? Does that flip back to Garfield County? Just out of curiosity on the
zoning does, but the enforcement of the CCNRs does not.
okay.
Yeah.
Curious. Okay.
That'd be, I think Leanne was going to reach out to him.
Would that fall under homeowners association for enforcement?
Yeah, I'm not sure there is a homeowners association
Oh, there is.
quite yet.
Would that be the entity that would enforce those kind of things, those violations?
Yeah, and in the absence of that, it would be the developer.
Okay.
Well, that's good. Yeah, Ray, if you can poke around in that a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay.
Anybody else, anything to say about TUID real estate holdings? Well, no.
So on that note, if you don't mind, Alexa, do you all think it's okay then for us to start parking TUID vehicles under storage?
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm assuming that that the boats, the storage rates are reasonable.
We were just gonna do it to protect your property.
Well, just want to make sure that the relationship does not become too muddled. I mean, it's kind of inherently muddled, but if so, I don't know. As long as you feel good about it, I feel good about it. But
Well, how about we stick them under there just to get them out of the heat of the summer, and then we'll revisit it in September or October, and I think it'll be okay. I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think there'll be any problems.
Okay. Just wanted to like make it clear that I realize that there are limits to North Lake Powell's accommodation, which I do appreciate. I don't want to discourage you, but so Mike, maybe you can talk a little bit about your adventures with Toth and Associates.
Sure. So I've been having some conversations with Toth, and this started back. Actually, these conversations started probably about a month after I got on the board. I started asking, types of questions. Anyway, started looking at it again, and started talking to Toth, and Craig is on the call tonight. He was wanting to listen in, and he sent us a proposal, and I had a conversation with the county. The county's behind it. In fact, they're looking for some extra funding available to maybe help us out with the project. So they're working on that end. And if you don't mind, Craig, you want to kind of give us an overview?
Yeah, I can give you guys an overview. How familiar is everybody on the call regarding cost of service studies? Are you aware of what they are, what components go into them? Does everybody understand what a cost of service study is?
No.
Okay. Let me give you a high level. By the way, I didn't do a poor job of introducing myself. My name is Craig Weichese. I work for Toth and Associates as the senior utility consultant for our firm. So basically, my background, I'm a CPA, have my MBA. It's cost accounting, basically. I'm not an engineer by trade, but obviously we have a lot of engineers on staff. But I'm very familiar with electric system, water systems, sewer systems, and understand all the methodologies to allocating costs. So just to get that out of the way, I've been with TOEF 13 years now. So we've had our company's been, as a company, TOEF and Associates, we've been in existence since early 2000s. Our main president, actually, Lou Toth, has been our founder. Has been utilities for 50 plus years. He just retired actually recently. His son's our CEO now. Our firm is over 165 employees now. When I started back 13 years ago, we were 25 employees. So we've grown pretty substantially over the years.
And where are you located?
Springfield, Missouri.
Not next door.
No,
Okay.
not next door. And so, no, I'm not next door at all and things, but Mike and I have been chatting. I think he's heard about us through dealings in Colorado and such and things. Thought, a lot of this, the cost of service study, you can do a lot of stuff remotely. So it's not something you need somebody next door necessarily to do. So, but like I said, very versed in studies. I've worked with public service commissions in states where I do rates, where I've had to do expert testimony. If you Google me, you'll end up seeing a lot of my testimony in the state of Arkansas and such. So from a rate standpoint, been doing it for a long time and such. So I meant to get that introduction out of the way before I start talking about what a cost service study is, so you guys get an idea who I am. Now on to a cost service study. A lot of times people use the terminology, and sometimes some people think, oh, I'm getting a cost service study, but it's like a rate update where like someone comes in and says, okay, I'll look at your financials, see what your current budgeted costs are. Are the rates collecting enough money to cover your costs? Basically, if not, what rate adjustment do we need as a utility? That's piece of a full cost of service study. That's really called revenue requirement. So we're just figuring, hey, what's the revenue we need for like a small district like yours? Your books are more akin to a municipality, and most likely your accounting records and such. And so I'd probably look at your system in a cash basis manner. The caveat with cash basis is when we're looking at any of your capital planning, your fixed costs, we sort of like to look at it within a window of 5 years, right? Look at it like a straight line cost that can fluctuate year to year. Like if you had a work plan or something that you had, or a system idea of your system fixed costs, we'd like to keep that sort of in a 5-year forecast window, relatively the same average of the 5 years over that period of time. So if it was $5 million, $1 million a year, it could fluctuate up or down. But for ratepayer purposes, it's best to do that and look at it that way. But what I typically do on revenue requirement, I'll look at your past expense history and what your current budget is, if you have a budget set, and then try to forecast out 5 years and build a plan rate-wise around like a 5-year forecast. It's more difficult when you get further out a window on forecasting. But that's what I do on the financial statements, and then give you recommendations on overall rate adjustments. That's my first step of a cost service study when I do a full one, which was what I quoted you guys at, doing a full one. The second step is actually taking the most current costs that maybe it's your budget or your most recent fiscal year or whatever, and then basically allocating those costs to rate classes. Now, for you guys, you really only have one rate class right now. It's basically you just have your residential class, you call it that. I think you do have some commercial from what Mike was telling me. We can investigate whether you need a separate rate for commercial in a study, basically. But you don't have a lot of.
Can I interrupt you there
Yes,
for a
go ahead.
minute? The commercial operation currently provides about 60% of our revenue. So
Okay.
I would not say that we have some commercial. I mean, I think the town would be dead without our commercial.
So you have a resort, correct? Or like a resort?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, hotel, adventure base, with expansion plans, significant expansion plans.
Okay. So for something like that, you may want, so your rates right now are basically a service fee and then basically a customer charge plus a kilowatt hour charge around 55 cents, if I recall correctly from your website, per kilowatt hour. That's the basic one. You have some tiered rates that if someone stays on a budgeted purchases or they have different type of rates, you have a menu of those. The question would be, is it worth having a commercial rate for your commercial resort where they pay a demand charge versus just having a straight flatline energy charge? That'd be the question at hand for something like that, whether, you know, it's worth it to do that. That'd be the investigation on a separate rate for a commercial.
Whereas I think, you know, in our case, we're not paying a transmission company demand fee. So
Yeah.
we're not trying to offset that cost. So it really doesn't make any sense for us to do like a demand fee for anybody, really, because the generators are running 24/7 anyway.
I would concur with that, unless there's some fixed costs related to the generators you're wanting to recover in a demand fee. And that the only real thing is, like, when you deal up at a generator level, is like if you have the cost of debt for the generation that you want to have something related to demand on that. Basically, you know, if you're like a G&T, the only reason you have a demand rate part of it's transmission, but the other part of the demand rate is most likely fixed cost on any investment you have within a generation plant. And that would be interest, P&I, basically. So, but you probably, Mike, I agree with you, you probably don't need to necessarily, but it's something you can talk about. Doesn't need to, we don't need to dive into it too far, but that's something you would look at possibly in a cost of service breakout. So,
you know, really what I was hoping to get from the whole process was just a really good understanding for everybody, you know, everybody involved, what the true cost of service is. So, you know, going forward, whether we make any moves or at all or not, but just going forward, we know where we're at. I think that's really important.
So go ahead.
It's never been done in Tickaboo before, so I think it's a
my thoughts about this, and tell me if I'm looking at it completely wrong. We're going through, and Mike may have told you something about it. We're going through a period of transition where we just have new managers on board for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So my sense is that it may be a little bit early to do this, because if you come and interview our managers right now, they can only tell you what they have found out in the last 6 weeks, which I'm guessing is not going to be enough for you to do your job. So my proposal would be to let our managers, and I'm talking about Ray and John here in particular, get their feet under them, get a good sense of what our revenue currently is and what it's based on and what our expenses are, so that they can share that with you so you can do your thing.
Alexa, I concur with you. I typically go through 12 months of data and such. So I think you're spot on about letting your staff get familiar themselves with the budget and how billing is going, because I'm going to ask for 12 months of data as a test period when I do the study.
And last year was just so completely weird, and then we had all this upheaval, and we had a new board and new management. So
what I make a suggestion though, like in the interim, maybe during the time that they're starting to get used to everything there, maybe have a Teams call to talk about what data is required in the cost of service study and what I will be doing with the data in the cost of service study at some point in time before you do something. And that could be something, if you guys choose to use us to do that, cost service studies are pretty universally similar from, you know, whatever consultant you use. There might be some value in your staff of just having like an hour and a half training session on what a study is, what data goes into a study.
How about?
I think that's a great idea, Craig. I think that's a good way to move forward. Yeah, because really, figuring out how to apply with the new management team, applying the labor and different things to certain specific areas is going to be almost impossible right now. Before we were just a one-man show, and half a man, and it was pretty easy, straightforward. But I think, if you could give us a forecast of what you're going to need, then that way we can be prepared, and then it'll all go smooth when we do.
How about revisit this too in about 6 months, like in fall?
I'd be fine with that. It sounds like a plan to me. Let everybody get used to their roles and such, and then let's plan on doing something like that.
Mike, Amy, are you good with that?
I agree. Now is not a good time to do that. I think we'll know better in 6 months where we're at.
John, Ray, are you feeling have any feelings about this?
I mean, I feel like we're pretty savvy business people, and we can, we need to get our feet under us and see what's going on out there. We're finding stuff every day, but it would be helpful, Craig, if you can just email soon, within the next few weeks, just email a list of that we can just sit there and try to incorporate into our daily findings, so that we can be like, oh, I get it now. I see what you're looking for. Whereas, like, if we sat down in the next few months, I think it would not be retained as much, because we'd still be like, well, I'm still trying to figure it out. So if you're able to do something like that, that would be helpful. And then we can revisit it in 6 months, like Alexa suggested. I think that's a good idea.
I will do that, Ray. What I'll do is I'll put together a typical, like, how I do a data request, but a little adder on there. I'll state what my purpose is for that data. Okay. And just the brief, I keep it brief. I won't write a dissertation on it, but enough to give you a high level of what I'm going to be doing with it and why I need it.
Sure. Sounds great.
Can you send that to me too, just out of general curiosity?
Yes, so I can.
I can educate myself.
Yep.
I can get y'all email addresses, Craig, or
sounds good. And I can give you a basic sample of a study for a municipality I've done that would give you a sense of what's going on. The key thing is how the costs are split on the books. Dealing with a smaller district like yourself, because you're going to want to know, do I agree with where the fixed charge, where I think the fixed charges should be each month based on your cost? Where's the energy charge? Basically, it really comes down to that in just a nutshell, the way your rate's set right now. And that's what you're going to get out of the cost of service section.
So does your recommendations after you've done your study, will that include a recommendation for impact fees, hookup fees as well? Or
yeah, I told Mike I can do that as well in this case, and try to get, I know those type of costs have been escalating on you guys significantly over the last couple of years. Transformers obviously has been a just nuts 200% increase on those in most cases I'm seeing. So yes, I can help out on that to get that up to more current levels for you.
Yeah, I think for our organization it'd be really good to have like an independent opinion on what our rate structure should be.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Alexa. That's exactly it.
Because we're kind of in a situation where there are a lot of people with double functions. Let's put it that way, and it'd be good to have decisions based on calculations made by someone who does not have another interest in any of it.
Yep. That's understandable.
Who are the people? The people with only double functions. I got some stuff for them to do.
Yeah, I think
so-
we're pretty much all sitting here with more than one hat.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Renee. Same thing.
Yeah, and I'll just comment on my end. Yeah, I like the idea of it too. I'm a numbers guy. I like looking at stuff like that. I think it's the idea is a really good one. It just comes down to the timing of it. And yeah, today for me, as I reach a comfort level of what's here and normalize operations, then something like the rate study would have much greater attention from me that I would like to devote to it. And even like, because we got data loggers up there too on the switches and output. And even, if that's something when you start looking at in advance to prepare and collecting that data, finding out where there's access to and just, gathering that data up in advance too. But yeah, it is a really good idea. It's just getting the timing of it right.
Sure. Yeah, and that was my whole intention, going forward. It wasn't one of these things we just need to pull the trigger on right now, but just
Okay.
kind of get everybody going and get that thought process moving forward, because I knew with the new management we weren't going to be ready for everything, but I do think there's a lot of value in it, and I definitely want to keep it on the table.
Yeah, I appreciate the work you did on that, Mike and Greg too. I think we're just moving things forward slowly.
Yep. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me out.
Thanks, Greg. You're
you.
welcome to hang around if you want to, but of course, free to go.
I'll probably head out. I appreciate it. I
Okay.
appreciate the time. I'll get that in the next couple of weeks. I'll get you guys a data request.
Okay.
Thank
You
you.
have a
Thanks,
good
Greg.
night.
So that brings us a kind of a follow-up on that on utility rates and fees and structures. I think we all have the sense that can do with a refresher, but that'll be the third step after we think about what the rate should be. So I think we should just push that forward as well.
Yeah, it definitely belongs behind the rate study if we're going to do one. But he's right. Transformers are 200%, and if I ordered one tomorrow, we get it 14 months from now.
So the purpose of this rate study, are we searching to find reasons to cut the rates, or are we trying to justify raising the rates? What I mean, because they're already sky high. I don't see that we could raise them any higher. There's no way.
I would imagine that theoretically it could go either way, but I'm hoping that the result will be not to have to raise them. I would much prefer lowering them,
Yes.
but I don't want to prejudge the outcome of a study. But I'm with you that lower is better as long as we can afford it.
I was just wondering what we're hoping to achieve here.
So the biggest goal, so not-for-profit utilities like San Miguel Power, like the one I work for now, anytime we do a rate change, we do a rate study by an independent engineer to validate the rate change. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to change the rate, but it shows our due diligence, because we're consumer owned, that we're taking into account everything by someone other than ourselves. And so it really just gives you a solid foundation to stand on. If they say our rates need to be 85 cents a kilowatt hour, do we do that? No, we can't. We know we can't. It'd wipe everything out down there. But is it valuable to have that data going forward to make good decisions on your infrastructure? Yes. So it kind of carries into a long-term forecast as well. Like you said, the 5-year forecast. How much line or how much stuff are we going to have to improve on our system over the next 5 years? And to get that done, this is the rate you need to do it. But like I said, we don't have to pull that trigger. We just know we're not going to get that done in 5 years. Maybe it's a 10-year plan from that point. But it's just good for everybody, the consumers, us, the county, everybody involved. It's good for everybody to know exactly what it costs to make TUID efficient and be able to move forward and provide infrastructure in the future.
Makes sense.
Anybody
Hopefully,
else
we're
wants
gonna
to
find
say
big
anything on
ways to cut rates, hopefully.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get rid of these hookup fees and
Well, that's kind of interesting. We were talking about that earlier today at work here too. San Miguel Power. So if you bought a new lot and there was no transformer on it, San Miguel Power, the company I work for, would charge you for the transformer, $35 a foot for underground wire. There's a $6 an amp reinforcement fee. So you're looking at probably $5,500, $6,000 just to get power to your property here in little rural Colorado, in Nuclear, Colorado.
Yeah, but what's a lot sell for there?
Lots here just depends. Anywhere from 12 to 15,000 all the way up to 80, just depending on what, how big the lot is and what you're buying.
Because an $80,000 lot, you're talking about 4 or 5% of the value.
Sure.
But here
Sure.
you're talking about 50% of the value.
Sure.
Right.
A water tap here in Nuclear is $12,000 just for the water tap. So I mean, it's
a lot of these
expensive.
lots already have
About the same what I'm paying here, except for the kilowatt hour, 55 cents. We pay 13 cents a kilowatt hour.
a lot of these lots already have the power and the water on them, and I believe we're being charged, or people are being charged to rehook them up. They're being charged the full price.
Sure.
Is that what you all understand?
Yes. Yes. I believe that is true.
That doesn't make sense. I mean, we're just going and turning stuff on. So I really think we need to, I really think that that's keeping people from purchasing lots. And it's, the ultimate goal is to get more people to move here, because that's going to make the utility rates go down, because there's going to be more people sharing, I think.
And maybe we should really, if you look at it as a combination of hookup fees, which is like what it actually costs to send somebody out there to screw the stuff together so that it all works. And you look at it in impact fee, the impact fee should really be negative, because the immediate impact of more customers is that the district runs more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm imagining that me saying that with my limited knowledge about that thing doesn't really mean anything. But I think if somebody who knows about these things and is used to calculating these things in a third-party study comes up with numbers, then I think that puts us on a much more solid foundation to change things.
Yeah, I think, and I've always thought this, but I think charging, so the original idea behind tap fees and abandoning those tap fees, the tap fee was put in place to keep people from abandoning their taps. TUID originally wanted that $214.44 a month from everybody with taps. That's what was going to keep everything going down there at that time. I think we really need to come up with a genuine, true cost of what it's going to cost to connect that person back to power. Mm-hmm. Whether depending on if we did have to set a transformer, or if we did have to pull wire, or do we find a list of certified contractors and say, hey, here's what you're going to pay us to connect, and then you hire your own contractor to put in our utility for you, which is probably makes a lot of sense to me based on the dynamics of our crew. You need guys that are trained in high voltage electricity, and I don't think we really truly have that. We got guys that can do it, but so I think finding a true value for those taps going forward will help us move those lots. And not just a deterring fee that, by God, if you abandon your taps, it's going to cost you $7,000 to rehook up. You know, I want to move on from that as much as anybody.
Yeah, and to add into that, you know, the recent and relevant, and Amy, you mentioned him, the guy with the fence down there by Reed. That's Matt Niederhauser.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt is looking for hookups too. So that's probably my biggest learning curve that I'll get with you guys on, because, and Mike, we even talked about, you know, a contractor versus what we have to do and where he has to tie in. But he's looking for those fees now. So I'm going to round those up and run those by you guys and make sure they make sense. So I get a collective opinion. Do you
have to read the rate sheet?
The only thing I've gone off so far, Alexa, is what's on the website. I haven't.
Okay, I have the complete set of rate sheets that I will email to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's something I haven't come across. And the other unique challenge with Matt in that lot is that is the lot where the water runs all the way to the cowboy camp too. And Matt flat out stated that he wasn't interested in the deal. So those were his words. We'll have to work, you know, that's because it runs off 1 meter too. And that was, you know, things done years ago. And now those years have passed, and it's come to that time that nobody thought it would come to. But, you know, it just comes down to another connection and dealing with that too. So it's a little different. And I think the only situation where that exists. So something I'll keep you guys informed of as well. But Matt does plan on building a house there. That's just, that fence, I guess, is for his dogs temporarily. When he does plan on, you know, building a house there as well.
Maybe you should tell him that the guys with the cattle are also the propane guys.
Yeah, you know, there's always a happy medium, and you know,
the AmeriGas don't come out here very often.
Yeah, exactly. That's indeed.
Yeah, if we could find a solution there, you know, like we talked about, maybe putting another meter pit in beside that one, and
probably so.
2 meters off 1 point, you know, and I don't know who pays for that at that point. You know, it's kind of on us that we're feeding the cowboy camp, and that lot just sold when actually that meter was for that. But yeah, and this might get interesting, John.
Yeah, we'd even talked about, Mike, looking at the other side where that pipe comes off the hill, but that's probably, you know, from the cistern, but that probably is going to determine where that pipe reduces, you know, to where the diameter drops, if any, how that's set up, you know, where and if you could tie in to shorten that distance. Yeah, that's, you know, probably some paper and field engineering review to see how that would work out.
Yeah, just one last comment on the power. You know, I think I said we charge $6 an amp. So for a 200 amp service, it's $1,200. That's what we call the facility reinforcement fee. So that covers all costs associated with that service, connecting that service. So if we did something where we were using a contractor to put it in place and do different things, I don't know. I don't see us charging a whole lot for that, but anyway, that's all I got.
Okay.
Well, we just, since we're talking about the future a little bit, we have toyed around with the thought of bringing in a certified electrician because of some of the stuff that we have going on, and that might become a valuable thing to think about down the road. Because I know if we have to pay contractors to come in, you know, that ups the fees. So I'll talk to Dave and Bob, Amy, and John, Tim about that for future.
Sure. Yeah, and nothing else, we could leverage ECI and just have the consumer pay for their installation. You know, that makes it easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a good discussion. Thank you all for that. Solar moratorium. Do you know anything about that, Mike? I know that Chip had a 6-month thing that he kept renewing every 6 months, and I think there is some state law that says that you can have a moratorium, but only for 6 months. And
Most of the time. Yeah, I think the original intention there was to not add generation to our system. So like a true net metered system where we're putting energy back onto our equipment. I think that was the intention, was to not have those coming online for different reasons, power quality, I'm sure. But I really don't see the benefit of not letting consumers add solar generation on their side. You know, where it's not a net metered situation. It's just we're generating power that we use that reduces our usage, but we're not going to put it back onto TUID and expect reimbursement for kilowatt hours produced. You know what I'm saying?
So is that a technical thing? Like the system could not handle the solar thing, or is that a financial thing, or both?
I think it's a little of both was the original intent. And I'm kind of guessing from a technical aspect. Yes, we are dealing with that now where I work. You get a large conglomeration of people bringing solar on a single phase feeder into your substation. It does create voltage issues. You do create power problems with that. I don't see that happening in Tickaboo anytime soon. But I think there's definitely, there's definitely going to be some financial hits. People aren't using much power. We're not going to be taking as much revenue.
So but it'd be the same. People can drag a generator onto their lot and do whatever they need to do there.
I think you can have a standby backup generator, but I don't think you can just generate your own electricity. I think there's something, seems like I was told that once.
So do we think that we need to renew the solar moratorium? I mean, I have the sense that we either need to do something, or
I kind of think it'd be good to have a plan on what we're going to do before we release it. Otherwise, we'll be scrambling to try to figure out what we're going to do, because somebody will want to step in. Just my thought.
Yeah, maybe I should figure out why Chip thought it needed to be renewed every 6 months. Do we have a copy of the actual board resolutions?
Should be on the computer there, John.
Yeah, I can look and see if I can find any on there anywhere.
Yeah, because I think that the board resolution, if I remember correctly, I've seen it once, refers to some state statute.
Yeah, I can check on that, certainly.
Yeah, so we can just have a look and see if we need to do something, or if we're free to just ignore it until the issue comes up. Somebody wants to do something.
What's the value of having that in place?
Well, I don't know. I know that Chip was religious in renewing it every 6 months, so I just want to make sure that if it is of value, then we don't drop it. I mean, maybe if you don't have a moratorium, if somebody asks to connect to the system, you have to say yes. But I don't know that, because we're not really in a position to say yes, is my understanding, on a technical.
So is that coming up in June then? Is this something?
No, I don't know. I think the last renewal for 6 months was a while back.
So it's probably coming up then.
It's or the date has already passed. It's just I think
Yeah, I'm like Mike. Some of the conversations I remember with Chip, he did claim there was a technical issue that with that power going back into the grid. Kind of what Mike said. I specifically remember having that conversation with him about that. So what you guys have said, I don't know if there's a happy medium that it's solar, but you don't have the opportunity to sell it back to the grid. Should you choose to do that, either, I don't,
Yeah, and then the question becomes, then you still pay $179 per month for electricity. No, it's like it doesn't make financial sense for any of the residents to do it. Okay, if you can just poke around, see if there's something we need to do there.
Yeah, I'll look on my end to see if there's any history of the resolutions by chance.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the next item is invoice payment process, and I'm not even sure what we're doing now. Sometimes I get an email that says, should we pay that? And I think, yeah, sure, we got the stuff, we got the service, so yes, we pay. But maybe Amy, you can describe how we're doing it right now.
John is getting the mail now, and he's forwarding all invoices to me because right now, we're still waiting to get John on the bank account. So I am paying everything online because I don't even have any checks now. So I'm requesting Wells Fargo to send checks to pay people. But
that works.
Pardon me?
That works.
Yeah, it's working. I'll be glad when John's on there and has a credit card and we get billing.com back up. Yeah, this just seems kind of encumbersome. I think it'd be better to keep track of it on bill.com. But I'm paying anything that's like piddly and silly, but anything large I'm trying to forward to you to get, just so somebody else knows I'm paying it.
So what do we need? So we're trying to get a credit card. I just signed an application, and then there's a credit card that John can use.
Yes. And I think John can put that on bill.com, right, John? Is that the plan?
Yeah, once we get that, and Mike knows, it sounds like maybe the bank could have reset by requesting that IRS ID number letter.
SS4.
That could be the needle in the haystack. I'm going to get over there tomorrow and search. I had plans to today, but with the generators and stuff, getting all that set. But I guess because of its lack of a guarantor, being a nonprofit, from my limited knowledge, they're asking for that. What they call the SS4 or whatever the IRS form is, the actual letter.
I'm a little confused about why we need a credit card. Well, we can't just attach the payment directly to our bank account.
Well, if you have if we have to go up to Ace Hardware to get a part,
Right.
we don't have an account there. We've applied for one at Napa. So, like recently, the two hoses on one of the generators, they just dry rotted over time. And so we had to go have them made, and without funds. I mean, what we've been doing is paying for it out of North Lake Powell credit credit card, and then turning in the receipt for reimbursement. That's just a process.
We don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's just too many steps. And and billing.com might not be the eventual answer. We got to investigate other ways, but presently that's the way that bills get paid that aren't like something that we have to go down and pick up. And without a credit card, that's out of service. So there's a lot of things that we need to try to streamline. Alexa, like John and just in the last 3 or 4 days with the meter reading and bills coming in. I mean, you have people paying express pay, you have people paying through ACH, and you have people paying by check.
Mhm.
And so to look and to investigate a payment, you have to go to 3 different
Mhm.
things. So it's just so much easier if we have one system, and probably that system is going to be whatever that system may be in the future is going to require a credit card for automatic
Yeah.
bills and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So I think that bill payment, that express pay thing is what goes where the website payment portal goes to.
I think so.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It looks a little outdated because what I can see, you have to put in one set of bills at a time. You can't have somebody that has 2 bills due in there. That makes sense. Because every month you upload a file from RBS into ExpressPay and it asks you if you want to supplant the previous file. Yeah, it looks like it only does. Yeah, you can't have a March and April bill due in there. It's one or the other. It's an interesting system. That's something, again, we get a comfort level look at it and see if that's the optimal thing we want and how that works. Because I was even having trouble today. I looked up Reed Kinney, and Reed's behind in his power bill, and he doesn't show up on a general payment report. But if I look up Reed individually, Reed made a $7,000 some odd payment back on May the 5th. But that is probably for a hookup fee. So I can't tie it to anything in there. I assume that revenue is feeding through, that the bank account is tied in. So anything coming to Express Pay is being deposited, but those are the things I don't know for sure. So there's definitely some research and, the quirks and ins and outs of to learn on that. It's a little different, but it's tough to get software that does exactly what you need in one package, in most businesses, but certainly something we could look at. If there's a better way, with less working parts going forward.
And I would, Wells Fargo is, I don't know why we're banking with them.
I wonder why too, Ray.
I could literally pick up the phone and call Chase Manhattan and have this resolved tomorrow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's odd because we're already banking with them. Yeah, it's almost like we're starting over, and I thought we had an existing relationship. So it's odd that they're requesting that now.
Yeah, I mean, the TUID had a credit card with them, so
yeah, exactly.
We already have all this information somewhere on file. Where are we having to dig for?
So Amy, go backwards. That was all probably done before the government levied $1 billion fine on Wells Fargo for the illegal things that they were doing.
True.
And so now they're having to go back and correct their mistakes. So now it literally is like trying to get a new account when you have to do something like this.
But this has been going on for, Mike, I know, has been trying to get a credit card since January, I think.
I still never have got my credit card. They must have canceled that or something because they were supposed to send it to me in January, February.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going. And by the way, before I forget, they mentioned that when the process takes place, they're going to take the balance on the existing card and put it on the new card and close the old card.
That's good.
And then to your question earlier, Alexa, that is the card that was paid off. It just was not completely paid off. So it paid it down to $2,500 in November. And then there was like a $1,600 charge to the county in November, and some other things. And now we're right back up to $6,300.
Okay. So can we pay that off? Like right now?
I think it would be a good idea to pay it off as soon as possible and then set a schedule that when that bill comes in, it gets paid off monthly from here forward.
Right, because
incurring those fees.
Kind of hurts my innate stinginess to pay 25% or whatever they charge interest for.
Well,
that.
especially with Wells Fargo.
That's insane with how much money we have in our account with them too. I mean, that's just insane. We're obviously good customers. I can't believe they would be charging us that kind of interest.
Has anybody asked them if we could do a debit? I never did ask that question, if we could do a debit card directly to the account.
Well, so yeah, that's the issue, is because you carry such a high amount of dollars in the account. If, debit cards are easier to exploit. And so if somebody made a fraudulent charge, then if it's a credit card, you get that removed right away. If it's a debit card, it has to be investigated. So it could tie your cash up for 30, 60, 90 days while it's being investigated until it is proven that it's not a fraudulent charge. So debit cards aren't generally the way to go for this type of business. Credit card is a lot more protection. And Cache Valley is a really good solid bank here in Utah, and there's an office in Lowen, there's an office in Price, and it makes it easy, because somebody's always going to lower a price. We could start, taking checks and making deposits when we go. We have to, as a matter of fact, we have to do the water samples by taking them to Price. So Cache Valley is a pretty strong bank, and they'd love to have a local business like that. And maybe that's the answer, is just to walk in there and have them take care of business for us.
Even if we had our main general account with, $50K plus in it, couldn't we have another account that we could fund out of that for a debit card purpose, like $3,000-$4,000, and just kind of keep that funded and not have to deal with the credit card rates?
Well, if you pay your card off every month and you don't have to pay interest.
Right.
No, I think we should just pay it off and then make a point of just paying off the balance at the end of every month.
Sounds good to me.
How would we do that? Would John or I call Brand, or I guess John's not on the account yet. I guess Mike or I would have to call that Brandon Hughes.
No, you can. So you should be able to go online, Amy, and transfer the money from, because we have the because they draw an automatic ACH out of the bank, so you should be able to just transfer the money right to the credit card, and it'll pay it off, and it'll be done.
Okay, I'll attempt to do that and let you all know how it goes.
I use Wells Fargo a lot. I can show you how to do it. I'm pretty sure I could do it for you in a second or two.
Mm. So that's kind of so we have to have some officers for our procurement policy and for our bill pay purposes. We need a financial officer, a clerk, a purchasing agent, and a records officer. Now, I don't know if you have thought who could. So the financial officer and the clerk have a role to play in the in the payment world, and the purchasing agent is mentioned in the procurement contract.
I would think, I'm just talking out loud, kind of going off what had happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Chip was the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Financial officer, I'm just talking out loud, but isn't that just like the treasurer?
No, that's a separate person.
So that's actually within TUID, not within the board, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And
like
then,
the clerk could be a board member or a staff member, but the financial officer and the purchasing agent and the records officer are just within
okay.
Within
Records
staff.
officer needs to be someone other than the clerk, because the clerk provides the records, and if somebody asks for the records and the clerk says no, then it goes.
Mhm.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm picking it up.
Mhm.
We talked about maybe Amy being the records officer since she was on site.
But
I recall that.
but in the invoice payment process as described in that little, not so little book, had a mentioned that the clerk should be the one to prepare the checks.
And then the treasurer signs them. Is that how that's supposed to go? Which is
The chair-
difficult with Mike being in
chair-
Colorado.
No, if there are routine matters, then the clerk prepares and the financial officer approves.
That's
So
kind of getting the treasurer was a financial officer, because the way it was working in the past was Chip would prepare payments. He would present them on bill pay to both Tom and
Right.
Jim. They would
That is
approve,
the non-routine. So there are two tracks described in that little book. It's the routine small payments, and that is just the clerk and the financial officer. And then there are the non-routine payments, and that's the clerk, the board chair, and the treasurer who have
Okay.
to approve. So I think if we do, and the difference is the approval process, and just based on that, and tell me if I'm crazy, I think the way it works now that Amy prepares the checks and John approves. Is that how it works now? Like
Pretty
for-
much, because he's telling me what needs to be paid. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of, I guess it could work that way too.
And like I said, anything large, I've been getting approval from you and Mike.
Right.
Before I do.
And yeah, and then for large things, for payments over $1,000, non-routine stuff and non-fuel payments, they're defined in the contract. Then Amy would prepare, and then Mike and I would both approve, like the chair and the treasurer. So that we've been doing it right.
yeah. So, just so I can help myself understand this too, make sure I'm clear. So like Beehive telephone bill is just John and Amy paying the bill.
Yes.
That's recurring, right? Because
Yeah, recurring Beehive telephone bill. Yeah, the
And-
normal recurring payments just happen.
but then Cat comes down and invoices you for 15,000.
Yep, and then that goes through the
Mm.
the chair,
But-
the treasurer, and then on that way, right?
But our contract, and I copied that in the purchasing policy, our contract specifies that there are regular things, like if you need fuel. I mean, fuel is a regular thing. I mean, it's not a decision whether we're gonna
It's big
buy it
and-
or not.
Yeah.
that comes right out of the account.
And maintenance parts, like if you go down to price and you load up on filters and tubes and stuff and it costs $1,500, then that would be within your authority to decide as well.
And in the past, we were notified of fuel purchase. And then like Amy just referred to, it's automatically ACH'd out of the account.
Right.
So there's not even any transaction there really, other than they take it right out of our account.
I think, has it been John or Ray that's been sending us the Pierce or whoever invoices every time we get fuel? Somebody's been sending them to us.
I did it before John got here.
Mhm.
I don't think we've gotten fuel since you've been here. Yeah, John did it the last time because he
Mhm.
got fuel. Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
So
it was,
we should be
it was,
asking before we purchase the fuel, or
I think
don't-
John just
we have to bid it anyway. I mean, I'll always update you guys with bids. Of course, last time was more difficult because often, didn't want to bid, and then the other one didn't either. So it kind of narrowed our choices. But yeah, I'll always run that by you guys, to make sure you're aware of it and what we're doing. Obviously, yeah.
One board member, I think that's acceptable totally, because like I said, we have to buy it. As long as you, and I would say, as long as you as the purchasing agent went out and did got the bids and laid it out and then just told us she
Yeah.
bought. Here it comes.
Yeah, that's no trouble. Obviously, you guys, you don't want to know that after I bought 70,000 worth of fuel. So as a professional obligation, let you guys know what's going on and what it's coming in at too.
Yeah.
And Mike, I guess you're keeping an eye on the bank account to make sure we can cover everything that we're spending. Okay.
Every time
That's specifically called out in the rules that the treasurer's job is to check the bank account and make sure that there's actual funds available.
Great.
Yeah, anything we can streamline in the future that I can pay, because it takes me another minute to pay some of the things I'm sending forward. So any of those things we get routine, I get bank account access. That'll be a step, for everybody, for efficiencies, where you guys will still know about it, obviously, but it'll be done a lot quicker too.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about the monthly $8,000? I mean, it is routine, but in that sense, I'd say it's an operational thing that North Lake Powell could do. On the other hand, it's a payment to themselves. So
yeah, it's kind of weird.
I don't know what the rules about that are, but
Why not just
I keep going back and forth between the small procedure or the large procedure for that payment.
when I invoice all of you guys that, and then Mike just verifies funds and says go. That's pretty much all you got to do.
And that's kind of the beauty of a bill.com or similar program. John can just upload that stuff there, and it's not a wait for the right people to approve it. And then once they do, it's gone, and John never sees it again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that way.
Yeah, I think I keep going back and forth about it, but when it comes down to it, I think it feels more comfortable to have board approval for that payment, even though it's very routine and very.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is that okay? How I've been asking you before I cut the check? Is that considered?
Yeah. As long as we have until we have a more slick method to do that.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that you keep that record, I don't know, stapled or in a file or somewhere.
I do, and then I give it to John.
Yeah. About the policy that I just the procurement policy, I just took the standard from the state website and filled in our information. Did anyone look at it? Do we think that's how it should be, or does anybody have any changes?
No, I think that's good. Just keep in mind, some struggles I've run up against myself earlier was getting people to bid on something. It's like the fuel. Sometimes you get often, and then you're trying to get Pierce, and you're not getting any correspondence from them, and you need to get it done, and it's hard. But I think if we just shoot those emails out and have some way of saying, "Hey, we did this."
I think a good faith effort to ask for a bid should be enough. I mean, if people don't want to bid, what are you going to do? Go over there, hold a gun to their head and make them say something?
Yeah. So just keep that in mind, John, as you're going forward. You're not always going to get full participation.
Yeah. And of course, it was new to me that first time, Mike. And I think I told you guys, I actually called off and, to ask for an explanation why. And they just mentioned they were too busy. We don't want to deal with it. And I said, well, you come this way anyway for, NLP and Bullfrog. And they said, yeah, because that's contracted. That's different. We have to. So at least it gave me insight, but it led me to that decision too. It's like, well, if they don't want to bid, then we don't have the luxury of going to somebody else. We've done our due diligence. I agree with that.
But the state also has procedures for having fuel delivered under contract, and the state has contracts with certain outfits that, I don't know, like whatever market rate plus, I don't know how they're priced.
I got to step out real quick. I'll be right back.
and may save you a whole bunch of money, time to hook on to one of those state contracts.
Yeah. Are you, Alexa, I've read a little bit, just enough to know I don't know enough about it, but you mean like through those pre-approved contractors via the state, right?
Right. And there were, I looked at it a little bit, and there were a couple, and
Yeah.
and I can get in touch with them and see how that would work.
Yeah, it would be worth finding out if that's something viable, or why they couldn't do it. But yeah, we'd even talked about where sometimes you pre-purchase, where you look at market, there's a risk either way, but that would certainly be worth looking into in the near future.
Because it seems like a colossal waste of time to have to go jump through all those hoops just to get your fuel.
Yeah, no, that pre-approved in that contract, the state, yeah, definitely send that information. And that's something that I've thought about too, and would certainly look into.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. So I will fill out the rest of that procurement policy. I don't know, I feel like maybe we should wrap this up sometime soon. I'm sure there are like a million things we can talk about. But the one thing that I wanted to mention about record keeping, we should probably get more intentional in our board decisions. We've been kind of winging it in the last couple of meetings. And then I saw the board resolution spreadsheet, and it might make sense to have our major decisions be documented in the same way. I know, Mike, I didn't quite pay attention to when you came back. I was talking about being a little bit more intentional in our board decisions. And the thought came up after I saw Chip's neat spreadsheet with every board decision going back to the dark ages.
Yeah, I see that too, Alexa. I found that. 187 lines of them, I believe.
Yeah.
To 2012.
And
2008. So I stand corrected. 08. Yeah.
And it looks like a good way to keep track of what we're doing, at least in big lines. So I was going to propose that we pass in our next board meeting formal resolutions to ratify our management contract, and pass a procurement policy and a record retention policy, which at this point I think should just be, we keep everything.
I agree.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I mean, it's the Trust Lands Administration has run on that for years, and every time an attorney looks at trying to define it any more precise, it gets to be such a headache and so many decisions that we just keep on keeping everything. And bits are patient and not expensive, so we can just work on electronic files. And I propose to talk about that in more detail at some other time, like how we're going to do record keeping in a practical sense.
And I'm sorry, when I was taking notes, I didn't. Did we decide on the records officer and the financial officer and the clerk?
We have I think Amy was going to be the clerk, right? Or no?
I'll do whatever you need me to do. I don't know that we had decided that, but doesn't the clerk lead the board meetings though? Like didn't Chip used to kind of?
Yeah.
Should John be doing that, or?
That's kind of what naturally come to mind to me, was have John just take over the clerk as far as preparing.
Yeah, except that we also need a financial officer and a purchasing officer.
Who is the records keeper?
I don't
Records
think we had. I don't think we had decided that yet. I think
The
the
records guy.
clerk. I think the clerk is one that can also be a board member, but I think even though officially the clerk prepares the board meetings, I think there's nothing that says that the clerk can delegate to someone else. Because the clerk does prepare the accounts payable. And if you're going to do that, you have to be the clerk, I think.
So me or John?
You, Amy.
Me preparing so that's like John tells me what needs to be paid, and then I prepare it and get permission from
Yes.
you and Mike. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And so how are you correlating accounts payable with the district clerk?
Because there is in our little in our book, it has a page that says who has to do what about purchasing.
I won't be able to pay the bills then, right?
Well, maybe wrong, but I think everything was being performed correctly before. And Chip was the clerk, prepared the bills, presented them to the board signed off, and paid them when we had that few people. So we have the luxury of expanding that a little bit. And I almost want to say we talked about at one meeting, just having Amy being the records officer to where she could be the backup to John if he needed, if he were basically refused somebody a record, then Amy would want to take that point.
Yeah.
Right.
So do we?
Yeah.
So do we think that John can be the financial officer and the clerk and the purchasing agent?
If they have to separate, perhaps Ray could be the financial officer and John could be the clerk. If it can't be the same person.
Do we have to split up the purchasing agent? I don't follow what, because John could be the guy that says we need to buy this.
Yeah.
We need to get bids for the deal. So to me, he's already the purchasing agent.
Right. And he also already is the financial officer, the one that approves small payments.
That's correct. And then he would be the clerk that would prepare bills that we need to approve at the same time. So I think that's why they had it.
I guess that there's nothing that says that the financial officer. No, because for small procurements, the clerk prepares and the financial officer approves. So that can't be the same person.
I think if you're in a small district, that there might be some exceptions to that.
Maybe.
I think we could do like Amy suggested and have Ray do the approval on site, have John prepare for small normal purchases. And then when it goes to the bigger purchases, it goes through you, me.
So that would make Ray the financial officer.
Yep. And that would make John the purchasing agent and clerk.
Yeah, that could work.
And then Amy the records officer since she's on site.
Yes, that works.
Everybody happy with that?
I think so. I think
That's how my
I'll read through that little book and the procurement policy again, see if that still all works, but I think it will.
So who's going to be the keeper of the secret squirrel?
I don't know. Maybe that should be you, Ray.
And given John, if John's gonna be purchasing agent in District Clerk, he's gonna want to raise. So John, maybe we'll let you start using the pool at the lodge at your charge. Would that work out?
That'd probably work out. Yeah.
I was gonna say the Kubota. He could use the Kubota, just,
There you go.
As a company car, you could use the Kubota.
There you
Sorry, John.
go. No worries.
Sorry, not sorry.
Well, I mean, is everybody okay? John, do you feel like you have too much on your plate? Is that all okay?
No, my only angst is getting the banking. I think once the banking is worked out, then all this is going to make a lot more sense. I think that's the only roadblock that we're facing in performing these tasks like normal human beings right now. So, that's out of our control.
Well, I can tell you that we're going to have trouble with Wells Fargo for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, no doubt.
Uh.
Yeah, I'm just going to I'm going to play the lottery and look for that letter tomorrow and see which one happens first. So maybe it's right there in plain view. And Ray, I was over there 2 days ago looking through stuff. But I wasn't specifically looking for that. But I'll and I actually brought a stack of papers back with me of stuff to look through. That every day I'm here, that stuff has more relevance to me, from an educational standpoint. But that being said, I'll look and see the stack I have behind me that's about head high. I'll look in there and see if there's.
So before you go over there, John, I was looking at the IRS. I don't have TUID's FEN.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's a lot of documents that you can go online. And if we have an account with the IRS, which if we don't with the FEN, you can set one up, and then you can just get that document and print it right then and there. So there's no wait.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Yeah, because I've got a personal account. I forgot about setting up.
Yeah.
I gotta look
Set
at
up
that
an
too.
IRS account, and then and then you'll be able to get the SS4 like lickety split.
Okay. Yeah, I'm shocked. I guess our accountant wouldn't have that set up. I could ask Sophie, and just by the off chance that they have to access, like they access TAP, but via the state. I'll just ask her just in case they already have one.
If she makes payments to them, then she probably does have one. Yeah,
there's a chance. I'll ask her and see. If not, we could set one up and see if we can get that.
Were you able to get a hold of Hinton Burdick, John, the accountant or the auditor?
I haven't yet. I will though.
I was just, no big deal. I was just wondering.
Yeah, good deal. No, I'll it's on the list to do because I know what does that do, and is it due in June?
End of June is when Sophie or the county.
Okay.
So can't remember her name off the top of my head. The county needs it by the end of June.
Camille,
that's it.
What does she need?
She needs our audit.
Audit.
So our annual audit, we have to do an audit every year.
Why does the county need that? Just curious.
I'm not sure. Good question.
Probably because they're the sponsoring organization.
I think so.
That brings up a whole different question. Has anybody ever asked Caden how the county wants to be included in what we do?
I actually had heard that interest the other day from Jerry Taylor. He would like to see something coming forward for, like a quarterly, just a report, just an overview of what's going on with TUID, just so he can keep the rest of the commission informed. And
is he the commissioner that's handling us?
Yeah, I'd say officially, but he seems interested.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to set up like an expectation of big extensive reports every 3 months. That seems like we're making a lot of work for ourselves,
Sure.
but
And I don't think that that's what they're necessarily after. I think if we don't say anything, we kind of just, we're out there in the back corner.
yeah,
So if I think anything we would provide, they would be happy to have it. So if it could be something, fairly simple. This is, this is what we're working on. We're working on the budget. We're just moving forward.
yeah.
I send them a
Communication,
monthly fire department and a monthly search and rescue report, and just so they know we're still here, and they appreciate it. And it's nothing major.
So is that like a one pager for each, or?
It's just mostly needs, what we've got going on, what we did this month, what we're expecting next month. They fund search and rescue in the fire department, so I would tell them what's going on so that we can get funding for it and stuff like that. But I would imagine with TUID, I can talk to Caden and Leland and Jerry too, but they're always welcome to sit in on a meeting. And
Sure. Yeah, and I always invite them, let them know when, like tonight, I let Jerry know we were having a meeting and told him to pass it on. That's kind of how it come up. He was just wanting an update. He called me wanting an update and told him about the cost of service study, and he was really excited about that. And that's when he offered to say, see if we can find some extra money to help you guys out with that. Whatever. And then Caden contacted me yesterday, confirming that, and he'd let us know what he could do. And I just think I think it's good for them to be involved, just so they know what's happening, and nothing's a big surprise.
Yeah, maybe I'm backtracking on what I just said. Maybe a short report at the end of every quarter. Like maybe we can get organized to get a first report on the 1st of July. No, nothing too big, too fancy, nothing beyond bullet points on one page, but
Yeah, maybe that's something John and I could work together on too, and just kind of, streamline it a little bit and make it easy.
Yeah, I'm used to that. So we could certainly do that. And, between RVS and Express Pay and, any other sources for expenditures, put something together pretty easily.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's definitely a relationship that we need to keep well oiled.
I agree.
If only because they can fire us.
Learning from the past.
Yeah.
I think we all need to have a really good line of communication.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. Is there anything else that needs to be said, decided, dealt with today? I mean, we've been at it for more than 2 hours, so.
That's a record for us.
Yeah, so I think that unless something really needs to be done tonight, maybe we should call it a night.
Yep. I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready for dinner.
It's been a
Me
long
too.
day.
My husband is cutting a salad, so.
Amy's getting hangry.
Yeah.
Put on about 50 miles driving to substations all day spraying weeds. We're escorting a weed sprayer to all of our substations. So it was fun. Got out, saw a black bear and some snakes and all kinds of stuff.
Well, we got to have a weenie roast down at the lagoon.
Yeah. But that was fun.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Looked a little scary on the pictures with those big flames. It's way too easy to imagine the whole area going up in flames there.
No, we
So we had a fire truck right there.
took 2 fire trucks down there 2 days ago to practice putting out a fire, just in case. So
I guess wearing more than one hat is not always a disadvantage.
Yeah, my
Okay.
comment earlier on the email, Ray, about the liner, it's still covered really good, isn't it? As far as
yeah, he was very careful about that.
okay, good.
Dana does a great job. You don't have to worry about him.
Perfect. Yeah, I didn't know if there were spots where it had shown through or what, you know.
And then, no, we're the number one guys and number two business, man.
Well, well, thank you all for your good work. Thank Dana and Ricky too. I'm sure they're doing their share, and everyone else involved that I don't know about.
I think that's it. That's everybody.
I will send the recording to Mike so he can upload it, and
don't worry about it, John. I can keep doing that as long as we need to. They finally got the old board members and some of the contact info updated, I see, and that's taken months. So don't hold your breath on getting anything from them.
It's a process.
I can go ahead and put that up for you.
What about the notifications? I think you did that this time. Are you ready? Or do we even know how to do that? John, do you know how to do that? I've never done it.
I'm still trying to get on to where I can. It's what Mike was alluding to, or that too. So I'm trying to get access to that. And I reached out to the Rural Water Impact. That's the guys who administer the TUID site. And I'm waiting to hear back from them to do it. Gave them my contact info because they emailed Amy requesting it. They had mentioned the web contacts were going unanswered. I actually get those in the TUID email, and I do answer them. So they're not going unanswered. They're going to a monitored address. And I let them know that. But waiting to hear. It's just the waiting game of getting. Once we get that stuff, it'll take it off you guys' plate. And
next time we do a meeting, why don't we just set up a quick Zoom, John, and we'll go on there and I'll just kind of show you through the whole page. I had to just through it and figure it out, but I've kind of got it figured out now, and I'll just walk you through it. And it's really simple.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great, Mike. Yeah, that would probably be a big help.
Okay.
And if that website's an issue, we can change that if y'all want. We can set up a new website and have the same domain or a different domain or whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're not like sought after, but we can set up something that's a lot more user friendly.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to give me a tour. I'll kind of look at that. A lot of them are so similarly built with a drag and drop editors these days. Just see what they come up with. But I'm going to call them. They haven't responded to the email yet. So, the next one will be a call in the next few days to see what we're going to do with them.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, thank you all again.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
thank you,
Alexa, don't forget we need to work on the agenda for the UAMPS meeting at the end of the month.
Yes. I will. It's been lurking in the back of my mind. But I will pull that to the front of my mind, and then I will make a little draft and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I mean, my basic question is tell us everything you know about what happened in 2017 and any documentation and everything you know, and tell us if there's anything we can do going forward. I mean, convince us that you're worth our $300 a month.
Is it a month?
Or 250, 268. I mean, it adds up to real money. And we've been paying that since 2016.
Yeah, I agree.
We haven't gotten anything from them that was at all useful.
What's that, Ray?
John and Tim has done some research into some stuff that they've done, and maybe you guys can write a small paragraph or two to the board to let them know what you know about UAMPS, and that would help Alexa.
Yeah.
I think.
I know UAMPS was somehow partnered in, I think, in the generator purchase and that community impact a while back. It might have been as far back as 13, but they had lent some kind of resources there. I can look up. I mean, they look good on paper, and they're involved in a lot of solar projects too. But just hit them up for free money. That'd be the biggest thing.
I was going to ask you, do they offer grants for projects? Because this
Yeah.
this cost of service study,
Yeah.
I'm sure would be a candidate for grant funding, and we might be able to get free
Yeah.
money.
Yeah,
I
you never
don't
know.
think
Yeah.
they provide grants. I think they may know who to ask for grants. That in the
Yeah.
2017 presentation, I think it was Doug Hunter at the time. I don't think he's there anymore. He basically told us that, oh, this is easy. We get grants all the time, and this is easy, and we do it every day, and everything will be beautiful, and then nothing.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, the county's willing to pitch in a little bit on that study, and if we could find somebody else to cover it, I'm sure for that type of study, I'm sure there's funding somewhere for it. We just need to find it.
Yeah. Well, and anything that we can get somebody else to pay for.
Yep.
And but I will. Yeah, if you can write up like a couple of paragraphs about what you know about UAMPS, and then I will write down what my questions are.
Yeah.
Which I will try to do in a non-belligerent way. Non-confrontational.
Well, then, Alexa, we'll see you on June 1st.
Yes. Yeah. I think we know where the meeting is, but if not, we'll find out before then.
I've got the address.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Sounds
I'll be
good.
for Memorial, so feel free to stop by and say hi.
Okay.
Buy you a beer or something.
What'd you say, Mike? You're coming to town on Memorial Week? Oh,
I was trying to get down earlier before the holiday, but it just didn't work. Fence building, horses, all that stuff, kids, So we'll be down hopefully for a good long weekend around Memorial.
yeah, should be nice. Probably busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you all have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, y'all.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.